Holdings is a diversified family office that my wife and daughters run out of Nashville, Tennessee at this point, focused in cannabis, real estate, hospitality, fashion, professional sports, music, and entertainment.
And you funded this family office with the sale of your
cannabis company. Out of Chicago. Yeah, we founded a company in the Chicagoland area back in 2014-15, and grew that to the largest privately held cannabis company in the U.S. upon an exit in July of 2020.
And who'd you sell to?
Curaleaf acquired us. Yeah.
That's a public traded
Canadian
company.
Public Canadian company.
Nice.
Yeah, you can only be public right now in Canada. In the cannabis space.
That's a good American story. Right?
Yeah.
So what's the story with the legality of cannabis in Tennessee right now?
Not much of one. Yeah.
Not much of one.
Yeah, not much of one. Yeah, Tennessee is going to be one of the last remaining states to fall, is my guess at this point. So
why is that?
Tennessee fiscally is a very strong state. So, more often than not, the states will jump in because of, needing some additional money to come in and, right-size budgets, et cetera. Tennessee's fiscally strong. I think politics also, of course, plays a role in that as well. And I think that they'll be one of the last states to fall.
So when you say fiscally strong, aka they don't have much of a financial incentive here.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So where are we on the national legislation for cannabis? Because it feels like that domino has to fall before banking can happen. It just seems like that has to happen at some point.
Yeah, a lot of people think that federal legalization is the key. I actually don't.
Okay.
I think a lot of us who've been in the business, I've been in it since 2014, which is about 50 years in any other industry. I think federal legalization really is. We're fine keeping it at the state level in this industry.
But how about like banking?
What we need to have happen are three or four things really. Recently, the Department of Health and Human Services, just about 2 weeks ago, made a recommendation to reschedule cannabis to a Schedule 3 drug from a Schedule 1. That would allow a couple dominoes to fall into place. That would allow hopefully what will be safe banking to be passed on Capitol Hill, which has already passed through the House 7 times and has failed in the Senate each time. So we're hoping that with this most recent bipartisan subcommittee legislation from a week or two ago that came through, that hopefully we'll get that passed. There's something in the IRS tax code 280E that we are not allowed to use in cannabis. We are very, very hopeful that we will be allowed to use 280E and exercise that to allow for the appropriate deductions to be taken, which will almost automatically allow for all the big MSOs and larger operators to be profitable right away, almost overnight. And then being uplisted and being allowed to be listed on the NASDAQ would be absolutely tremendous. So right now you can only be listed in Canada.
Yep.
So that's why federal legalization, really, it doesn't matter if that makes sense that much.
It looks like this bill that's that just went through the Senate Banking Committee seems pretty serious. This is kind of crazy to me. I had no idea that cannabis-related companies right now are forced to operate using only cash. Is that true?
Yeah. That
sounds so archaic.
It's really, really antiquated.
Wow.
Yeah, really antiquated. It's a real challenge in the industry for, as you scale your business. It's a tremendous, tremendous challenge. As a consumer or a patient or a consumer, it's a challenge. And so this would allow really, for the big banks, the FDIC insured banks, to be able to take our money and also provide loans to us, because as of now, to scale your business in the cannabis industry, it's really all cash. You can't provide no one can provide you any leverage in the public markets. So you're getting leverage from private investors like ourselves. We'll lend to certain cannabis operators, et cetera, but they don't come cheap.
Yep. All right. So we have legal cannabis here in New York, but I'm sure you've walked down the streets of New York City.
Yeah.
There's these cheesy weed shops, 2 or 3 to every block.
Yeah.
What did the city get so incredibly wrong here?
Yeah, the state. So it's at the state level, and in my opinion, it's at the state level. State will, enact legislation. They'll adopt rules and regs, as we call them, and and then New York, like so many other states, unfortunately, will roll out a program and they're just not ready for it. And time and time again, we've seen this over the last decade when states roll them out, especially in limited license states. There's been a real big push for DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, social equity, participation in the cannabis industry. And there are just not the appropriate tools for a lot of these states when they roll out programs to allow for the influx of interest that they're getting, that these cannabis commissions are getting. And so New York is one of many, many states.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you put the genie back in the bottle here?
It's tough. It's hard. Yeah, it's hard. They're going to try. They're trying right now, but it's a challenge.
Because you're supposed to have state-approved dispensaries, which we
Right.
have a couple or three here in the city. Matt Miller would know the details better than me. But then we have the unlicensed ones.
Right.
And I guess the law enforcement just has chosen not to enforce.
Yeah, that's what they've chosen to do.
Okay.
At this point, there are bigger fish to fry
Yep.
from a law enforcement standpoint, and so it is tough to put the genie back in the bottle. To your question.
Is that a problem in other states too, or is it just us city folks complaining here?
No, I think it is. I think New York though has really has a real issue.
We've done an extra good job. At screwing it up.
I think you have a real issue coming from Illinois, coming from the Chicagoland area. I will say, as screwed up as our state, my former home state of Illinois is in many respects, Illinois' cannabis program. We were the 11th state back in 2014. They actually did a really nice job crafting a program that did not provide for what is happening here in New York.
What are the economics for a state for the cannabis business? Does it? What are the revenue arguments that are being made, have been made, and are they coming to fruition?
Yeah, they are. Yeah. I mean, Illinois recently, had more in sales tax revenue, as an example, in cannabis sales than alcohol sales.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
And
okay.
you're going to continue to see that trend around the country, is my guess. So, when these states are putting together annual budgets, this cannabis tax that's coming in is rather significant. I can talk to, about Illinois just for a second, just
Yeah.
because that was where I started. And, if you're a medical patient, you're going to pay about 3 or 4%, I want to say. If you're an adult use customer, you're going to pay somewhere between 30 and 40% of tax.
Okay.
Based upon, figure you're at a 35% average tax. So yeah, it adds up, pretty significantly.
And when we're looking at next states that could legalize weed, cannabis, weed, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
Cannabis is the proper word here. Can we not
Cannabis.
say weed? Is
Yeah,
that
no, you can say
inappropriate?
weed, of course.
That's the ETF.
Oh, right. Yes,
That's the
excuse
ETF.
me. Right. One of our new favorite tickers. But when we're looking at legalization for future states, I mean, is it really a political argument? Is it a fiscal one? Like, what are the big talking points here?
Yeah, what happens is every state will always roll out a medical program first, every single one. They will typically let that go for a year, 2 years. They'll see how it goes. They will notice that there is not an uptick in criminal activity. They will notice that there is not an uptick in DUIs and all of that kind of stuff that folks get scared of, that officials get scared of. Then they start talking about adult use, recreational use. And so it takes a couple of minutes for a state to come around, and and then once they do, it then takes a little bit more time for them to enact adult use legislation. We're seeing it move a little bit quicker now, just because we have so many states that have opted into medical programs. I think we're up to 37, I want to say, states plus 4 territories that I could be off by 1 or 2, but around that number that have at least medical programs. And then when you break that down, you have in the low 20s on adult use.